The moment he stepped into the police station, a girl from the gang aimed a gun at him. He saw his daughter taken hostage by the thugs, who then executed the police chief in cold blood. Left with no choice, he went with them, his daughter's safety hanging in the balance. The movie begins with Lee and Fodys covertly surveilling the headquarters of a drug trafficking gang. Just before the operation, Lee gives Fodes a watch as a keepsake. They launch the raid only to find the building seemingly deserted. With no signs of activity, they decide to withdraw and resume monitoring the situation from outside. However, the thieves had been hiding in a concealed area within the headquarters, waiting for the perfect moment. Suddenly, they emerged and opened fire, striking Lee. Fodes responded with a relentless counterattack, swiftly eliminating all but one of them. But as he lowered his guard, the last surviving thug struck back, stabbing Fodes and shifting the momentum. Just as the attacker moved in for the kill, Lee acted first. Anticipating an imminent explosion, Lee ordered roadblocks and civilian evacuations. Though the threat was neutralized, he ultimately succumbed to his injuries. 4 months later in Nevada, police were chasing a gang after a bold heist. Just as they were closing in, one of the criminals hacked the communications system, disrupting the signal and allowing the gang to vanish. That night, authorities confirmed the gang had stolen $10 million from a city casino. Soon after, the identities of those involved began to surface. A man named Banks led the operation, while Lawson, a seasoned veteran, was the true mastermind. As soon as the heist concluded, Lawson fled the scene in the getaway car, determined to erase all traces of their involvement. Moments after Lawson's departure, Banks and his crew opened the bag of loot only to be horrified by the sight of a bomb ticking down. Their escape route had been sealed off, leaving them completely trapped. In that instant, Banks realized the truth. Lawson had betrayed them, taking all the stolen money and setting a deadly trap to wipe out his crew. Desperately, Banks tried to disarm the bomb, but elsewhere, safely out of reach, Lawson calmly pulled out his phone, ready to detonate and complete his plan. Banks managed to disable the bomb just in time, narrowly averting Lawson's deadly trap. Refusing to be outplayed, he and his crew vowed to track down and eliminate Lawson. Banks instructed Jiri, their hacker, to trace Lawson's movements using a hidden tracker he had secretly planted on his clothes. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Fodes, enjoying a quiet day in the countryside with his daughter. But when he learns that Kim is about to meet a friend, a sense of unease sets in. He suspects danger is looming. Just after his daughter left, Fodes began prepping his gear for a hunting trip with a friend in the wilderness. But his plans were cut short by an urgent call from the police chief, ordering him to report to the station immediately. The reason shocked him. Kim had been accused of shoplifting at a convenience store. At the station, she was being questioned about her ties to Larson, while Banks and his crew were also there, seeking the chief's help in tracking down Lawson. Each group pursued its own agenda, unaware of the danger looming ahead. Lawson was hiding deep in the forest while Banks' crew struggled to find a way in. Meanwhile, Lawson moved steadily through woodland, heading for the border. Back at the police station, Fodes arrived and quickly spotted 2 of Banks' men outside. As he approached, Dominica stepped forward, gun in hand, ready to strike. Fodes demanded answers, and Banks calmly explained he was seeking the police chief's help to track a fugitive hiding in the city's forest. But when the chief refused to cooperate, Banks and his crew took matters into their own hands, seizing control of the police station, where Fodes' daughter Kim was being held. Feeling the rising tension, Fodes agreed to help Banks track down Lawson on the condition that Kim and the police chief be released. Banks agreed to free Kim, but moments later, coldly executed the police chief. As the situation unfolded, one of Banks' men aimed a gun at Fodes from behind. Fodes quickly spun around to take control, but his gun was empty. Left with no choice, he complied with Banks' orders, knowing any resistance could endanger Kim's life. Fodes kept Kim's identity as his daughter a secret, The hunt began when Banks' crew took Kim hostage, soon locating Lawson's car and the tracking device he'd used. However, this meant they could no longer track his movements through the forest. While Kim was terrified by the criminals' threats, her father reassured her they would soon find a way to escape. Fodes watched as Kim asked Dominica for permission to step away, but soon after, he heard her desperate cries. One of Banks' men was trying to assault her. Consumed by rage, Fodes quickly and brutally took down the attacker. Realizing the chaos this caused, Banks ordered Jensen to eliminate Fodes and neutralize any potential threats. Suspecting the close bond between Fodes and Kim, Banks decided to shoot Fodes. In a panic, Kim instinctively called him Dad, revealing the truth they were father and daughter. Meanwhile, the hacker, skilled at working in the shadows, seized the chaos to launch a new coup, all while complaining about exhaustion and the lack of water as the hunt intensified. Jensen, irritated by the hacker's attitude, forced him to drink his own urine. Humiliated, the hacker erupted in anger, triggering a violent brawl between them. Amid the chaos, Fodes saw a rare opportunity and urged Kim to run. However, Banks intervened just in time, threatening to kill them both if they moved again. After a long day of walking, the group rested and quickly fell asleep. Seizing the chance, Fodes tried to free Kim, but Jensen caught him and delivered a harsh slap. The next morning, they resumed their pursuit toward the Canadian border, hoping to find Lawson. Along the way, Fodes spotted a partially burned map, evidence that Lawson had used it for a campfire. This clue confirmed he wasn't far ahead. While resting in a tree, the hacker discovered the body of Fodes' friend, who had gone hunting earlier. After confirming the death, Fodes deduced that Lawson, a former member of Banks' crew, was responsible. They pressed on with their search and eventually found Lawson slumped against a tree, exhausted and injured. His condition suggested a prior struggle with Fodes' friend. Banks quickly interrogated Lawson about the stolen money, but Lawson refused to answer, mocking the group as foolish thieves easily deceived. His provocation angered everyone, including Dominica, and they executed him on the spot. With Lawson dead, Banks and his crew lost interest in the money, but Kim suggested they check the river near Lawson's possible hideout. There was a chance he had hidden the cash there. Kim suggested the river idea to buy time and delay her and her father's execution, as they were now considered useless to the gang. When they found the money, it was perched dangerously on a cliff, too risky to retrieve. Seizing the opportunity, Fodes proposed a deal. He would recover the money in exchange for Kim's freedom. Banks rejected the offer, insisting Kim would only be freed once the money was in his hands. After a grueling climb, Fodes retrieved the money, but as soon as Banks had it, he fired on Fodes and Jensen before cutting the rope. The path below collapsed, sending them plunging into the abyss. As Banks prepared to kill Kim, she revealed she knew a way out of the wilderness, sparking a change of heart in him. He decided to keep her alive, and under her guidance, the group left the dense forest. Along the way, Jiri, attracted to Kim, hinted at starting a relationship, but she rejected him, causing his anger to flare. Jiri lashed out, beating Kim, but Dominica quickly intervened, taking him down. Fed up with his actions, Banks and his crew decided to leave Jiri behind. Meanwhile, Fodes, still alive, buried himself to survive his gunshot wounds and avoid detection. When he found a backpack with emergency supplies, he discovered a crossbow, a weapon that could change the tide in his favor. Banks and the remaining gang members took a break after a long day, preparing to eat, only for Jensen to reveal that all their food was in Jiri's backpack. Meanwhile, Jiri, still alive, was enjoying a lavish meal in the wilderness, but the isolation of the dense forest made him uneasy. Fear of a wild animal attack kept him on edge. Meanwhile, Fodes quietly readied his arrows for a counterattack. Armed with his crossbow, he swiftly took out Jiri, who was separated from the group. Upon learning Kim was heading to the border, Fodes seized the opportunity to plan his next move. The following morning, as Banks and his gang continued their journey, Kim remained determined, believing her father was still alive. Kim left a subtle clue to guide her father, convinced he was still alive and searching for her. As the others pressed on, Jensen stopped by the roadside to light a cigarette. Seeing him separate from Banks, Fodes appeared and confronted him. Though Fodes was physically larger, Jensen's superior strength and combat skills allowed him to overpower Fodes repeatedly, proving to be a formidable opponent. Fodes finally took down Jensen, driving a sharp wooden shard into his body. When Banks and Dominica called out to Jensen and got no response, they decided to leave him behind. Meanwhile, Kim was confident that her father had succeeded in taking him down. After a long journey, just as the group neared the Canadian border, Fodes emerged, hurling a heavy log at Banks to set the stage for their final confrontation. The log struck Dominica instead, killing her instantly, which sent Banks into a furious rage. He threatened to kill Kim if Fodes dared to interfere again. Drawing his gun, Banks aimed at Fodes, but he fell into a trap and was pushed into a ravine. With the situation turning in Fodes' favor, Banks managed to convince Kim to keep following the path toward the nearest border. Fodes regained his composure and resumed tracking Banks, but it seemed Banks and Kim had already reached the border. There, Banks killed 3 campers to avoid detection. When his gun ran out of bullets, he quickly shifted his plan, intending to knock Kim unconscious and escape on a motorcycle. Just then, Fodes appeared and instructed Kim to go find help. Upon reaching a nearby settlement, Banks quickly hid when he heard the sound of approaching engines, signaling danger. Realizing Fodes was on his trail, he frantically searched for an escape route. He took refuge in an abandoned warehouse, but Fodes soon tracked him down. After a fierce struggle, Fodes defeated Banks. Without wasting any time, he left the warehouse with a bag of money, a symbol of his survival and triumph. Kim was reunited with her father just as Banks appeared. Without hesitation, Banks insulted Kim in front of Fodes, igniting his fury. In a split second, Fodes drove a motorcycle straight into Banks and detonated it, killing him in a massive explosion. With Banks gone, Fodes rescued Kim. After days of danger and struggle, father and daughter were finally